What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling, and we're going to talk today, begrudgingly, about WWE Survivor Series 2021. A show that I got much more entertainment out of the Twitter comments afterwards than I did from actually watching this show. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys, this being YouTube, that YouTube's algorithm loves when you show up and actually hit the like button. Not say that you might hit the like button, but you actually hit the like button. It does help the YouTube algorithm let other wrestling fans know about this video, so they can come here and they can write comments and like and tweet and talk about it and make really weird references. But yeah, that definitely helps out the channel, so I appreciate it in advance. So let's talk about the show proper before we talk about the other stuff involved in the show. I'll sum it up this way. Let's do the good stuff first. The first match with Becky Lynch and Charlotte was absolutely fantastic. I love that match. There was just enough of them kind of teasing that maybe some of the things that were happening in the match weren't planned and they were actually getting testy with each other. This entire feud, from what I've seen of it, has been played really, really well. This match was executed very well. Did have a bit of an odd finish with Charlotte trying to do a roll-up on Becky Lynch and using the ropes. The referee caught her, broke it up, but then Becky reverses the roll-up and gets the 3 count by holding the ropes herself. Charlotte kind of laughs off the loss and then leaves the ring. But I thought this was fantastic. This is one of the coolest things that they did on this show. So I definitely recommend checking out that match. I also recommend the main event, Big E versus Roman Reigns. Big E made a great showing of himself. Reigns at one point hits a rock bottom in the match, which we'll definitely talk about that later. Big E survives 3 Superman punches to the face and halts himself up, which was pretty badass. The match didn't ever get to that next gear, though. It's like they were getting there, and then, full disclosure for those of you who haven't seen a lot of my videos before, I do not watch Raw and SmackDown. I'm not as big a WWE fan as I used to be, so I don't know all the ins and outs and watch every little thing and know what The Rock said and what this person said and what happened over here, because I have other things to do that I'd rather be doing. But I do check out the big pay-per-views, and this being a big pay-per-view, me coming into it as, I guess you would consider me a casual WWE observer, not even really a fan, but I observe it casually. Like, I watch the big pay-per-views. Coming into the show, I was being a rough fan of other wrestling shows. I have to remind myself that WWE has its own style, and this is the style that they do. So for the style that WWE does, the main event and the first match were really good. And I also have to give kudos to the tag team match. Randy Orton and Matt Riddle are one of my favorite things in WWE. Every time they show up on a WWE show, I enjoy it. And they were taking on one of the best tag teams of all time in the Usos, so that match is worth watching as well. So those were the big highlights of the show. I think all 3 of those matches are very entertaining, and I suggest you watch them. But then there's all the rest of the show, and I think somebody else, I saw earlier, somebody said that like 79 minutes of this show was promos, entrances, commercials, and video packages. That's a lot of time to be on promotion, which essentially most of that stuff is. But it's, again, this is sports entertainment. That's what WWE does. The matches in that rest of that time slot that made up the rest of this over 3-hour show, the men's match was okay. The Battle Royal was okay. I did find some of the stuff with R-Truth funny, but the problem with Survivor Series and the way they've set it up is it seems kind of meaningless, because there's not like anything to kind of draw on afterwards. There's a couple little storylines going through some of the matches, but it doesn't feel like anything was really progressed too much, except for one storyline with the Sasha Banks stuff. But let's talk about that women's match. That women's match was probably the lowest point of the show, which is really unfortunate because there's a lot of talented women in there. But by that point, the crowd, which is a New York crowd at the Barclays Center, which are usually raucous and, it doesn't matter what wrestling it is, WWE, AEW, New Japan, whatever it is, the New York crowd is usually very, very into the show and energetic about it. And at this point in the show, they just started doing the wave. The WWE started piping in crowd noise. no. When that happens, it's a sign that the show's pretty bad. There was even a CM Punk chant for a little bit, which I'm really surprised that was at a WWE show, that there was a CM Punk chant. You saw one of the guys in the front row turning to the crowd and doing a thumbs down and stuff. The WWE sweaties are great. The booking of it was interesting, but I think it just went on too long. It resulted with the rest of the SmackDown team really not giving a crap about Sasha Banks trying to big girl them all. Shotzi kind of really got into it. She was leading the charge on that. They had a 4-on-1 advantage against Bianca Belair at one point, then a 3-on-1 advantage, and then Bianca Belair basically executed the rest of the roster, which included Shayna Baszler, for God's sake. So she wiped out everybody, became the sole survivor, which was cool for Bianca Belair. But this match fell flat on the crowd, which made it fall flat on TV. Now let's talk about the Rock thing. The Rock thing, I tweeted about this, and I know there's the one guy that always says to me, like, well, you keep saying you're not going to go on Twitter, but you're good going back on it. Yes, I know. It's like a morbid addiction for some reason. But I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter, nowhere near as much as I used to a couple years ago. But I did tweet out about this, and made this tweet, and which is kind of a comparison, and going, this comparison is going to be made. And it is a comparison that, AEW, sorry to mention them in the WWE video, but AEW hinted at CM Punk showing up, and he shows up, and they had Britt Baker do the Panama Sunrise, and then Adam Cole showed up, and they hinted at other things, and the people have shown up. They've done that, and it's not just AEW. WWE earlier this year was talking about Paul Heyman having another client, and then Brock shows up. They were talking about all-time great world champions, and then Cena showed up. So, since that's been done a lot this year in multiple wrestling companies, and throughout the history of wrestling, again, I've been watching this stuff for a very, very long time, since the 80s. Every time I've seen a wrestling company heavily mention a star who's not currently on the active roster, that usually portends that that star is going to show up either on that show or very near in the future. When they have tribute shows to old school Raw, they usually have old school guys on the show. So I don't watch the weekly TV show, so I came into this pay-per-view seeing the pre-show, them talking about the Rock ad nauseum. They were commentators were talking about it throughout the entire show. Vince had 3 skits about the MacGuffin in the Rock's new movie, which is the Cleopatra globe or ball or whatever it was, that or egg that he had, and then it was stolen, and they're going to get down to the bottom of it tomorrow night or Monday night on Raw. He had a whole promo with Vince and Roman Reigns talking about The Rock, and again, Roman threw The Rock bottom onto Big E during the main event. So all of that stuff, me, as a person who's been watching wrestling for a very long time and has seen this kind of pattern before, this kind of trope before, was going halfway through the show, oh, I didn't know, is The Rock showing up on the show? Because they're certainly doing a lot of mentions, and usually that means that the person that they're making mentions of is going to show up in some shape or form, but he didn't. You even see it at the end of the show, and Roman and Paul Heyman are going back up the ramp, and they showed a shot of the crowd, and usually you see people leaving. Nobody was leaving. Everybody was standing on their feet watching, because they were expecting that something was going to happen, at least some sort of promo or something, but nothing at all about The Rock. Now, yes, the Sweaties then came after me on Twitter, which is always hilarious, because they are some of the funniest people in the world who don't understand the definition of the words that they mean. and they always insist that you're very angry when you make any kind of criticisms of WWE, and to be fair, in the case when I was making criticisms about the exploding ring fiasco, and all the AEW Sweaties came after me. So it's social media. That's what it does. But it was just funny seeing all these people tweeting me, and that tweet blew up. It was like thousands of likes and retweets. I didn't expect that, but it is. And another YouTuber basically said the same thing I said on his own Twitter. Hey, look, man, it's the sincerest form of flattery, so I'm not mad at the dude. But it's just funny how the Sweaties reacted to this whole thing. The thing that the bots, and you can usually tell a social media bot because they usually have a bunch of numbers in their handles, but the bots started tweeting out, nobody said that The Rock was going to be on the show. So then all the Sweaties picked up on that, and then they started repeating it over and over again as if it was their own idea, which it clearly wasn't, because I saw where it came from. I saw where it started. So you get all these tweets about it. Nobody said The Rock was going to be on the show. And I've already seen some of the other YouTubers addressing this. And it's just, social media is so weird. It's so funny, though, especially wrestling social media. But the main contention was that that WWE did not say The Rock was going to be on the show. As if for the last 30 plus years in wrestling, we have not seen companies hint at people and show video packages and talk about people who are not on the current active roster, then show up on the current active roster after they've hinted at them and talked about them and so on and so forth. So it's an old wrestling trope. Yes, WWE did not flat out tell you, which is really weird to me because I think that kind of is indicative of the way a WWE sweaty is, that they think that WWE, if the WWE doesn't tell you what to think or what to expect, you shouldn't expect it, because that's the way they think about things. But yes, they didn't flat out say The Rock will be here tonight, but they didn't say that about Brock or Cena or Becky when they showed up. They usually haven't done that in the past when they want to have a surprise appearance or a surprise cameo that they kind of drop hints that they're going to have. So it is what it is. I think, honestly, at the end of the day, I think it was probably just them not thinking it through and going, we know there's this big rumor out there that it's going to be The Rock and Roman at WrestleMania, and we've done all these things where we keep bringing back these legends to come confront The Rock. So on an anniversary, to confront Roman, so on an anniversary of The Rock that we've been promoting, there are probably a good portion of fans who are going to suspect that possibly The Rock's going to show up on the show. And if we keep mentioning him, a lot of them are going to think he's going to be on the show. And if he's not there, they're going to be a little bit disappointed. It's not that they don't have a legitimate point, because yes, WWE didn't say that The Rock was going to be on the show. And they're like, well, it was the 25th anniversary of him debuting. I know that. I actually remember watching Survivor Series 96 because I'm old. And I remember that show very well. And yeah, of course you're going to mention it, but the whole show, I mean, they could have done it at the beginning of the show and done a long tribute to The Rock and then said, okay, we did that. Now we're going to go on with the show. And we don't want to keep bringing it back up because and do video highlights of his career throughout the entire show, because that might lead some fans to think that he might be coming back, or at least making some sort of an appearance or reference to him on the show. It's kind of bad for WWE too that, with him not showing up, now that whole show kind of, to me, it kind of looks like, how there's like that guy that always that used to date some girl 25 years ago, and now she's like a celebrity or famous or rich or whatever, and then he every single second he can reminds everybody that he used to date that girl. Yeah, I used to smash that. Oh, you guys still talking? You still dating? Is she gonna come to the party? Oh, no. But I used to smash that. But you're not dating, so why you keep bringing it up? Because it's the 25-year anniversary of when I first smashed it. That was all my contention about it, and just the comparison between the two companies, that one company, they know if they mention this person's name or even hint at this person, that people are going to go, oh, does that mean this person's showing up? But they're not going to do it unless they know they can deliver that person. And the other company does it, but they're kind of unaware that there's a large portion of their audience that's going to kind of consider that might be a possibility, because they've seen that happen so many times this year alone. So that's all it really was. But it's just, again, I got a lot of entertainment out of wrestling social media, which is always entertaining, sometimes in a bad way, but always in a hilarious way, with how people get really crazy about the stuff. At this point in time, I hope for WWE that The Rock shows up pretty soon, because, yeah, while it doesn't actually make me mad, because I'm not a really big WWE fan anymore, I'm a casual observer, I did see a lot of WWE fans who were kind of ticked off about it, and I did see a lot of WWE fans defending it, so it is what it is. But I want to know what you guys thought about the show. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Did you expect The Rock to show up? Do you think it's silly that people would think that The Rock show up, despite the fact that it's his tribute show, and I can't remember any tribute show for a wrestler that wasn't on the active roster where said wrestler did not show up on the show, even in a 5-minute video thing that they recorded from their phone via satellite. But what did you think about the actual matches on the show? Did you enjoy Becky and Charlotte? I thought that was great. Did you enjoy Roman and Big E? What do you think about the tag match and the multi-man tag matches, elimination matches, and the Battle Royal? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until then, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe button, the notification bell, and be sure to share this video on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, and all those social media outlets so you can get trolled by people too. Until next time, I'll see you guys here for more news, rumors, and commentary right here on the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.